Okay, just a few things, and I promise I won't keep this too long because I know we all want to tour the gardens, myself included. Besides this being our 60th anniversary, we're basically rededicating our clubhouse. And for people who have been here before, you may not notice, but us old timers, if you look around, we're so thrilled. We have new lights, a new ceiling fans, new curtains, new drapes. I mean, we're just over the moon. The place really has been transformed. And we owe a lot of this to members' generosity. I see Mr. and Mrs. Linda and Alex Lane are here, and they provided us with a substantial donation for which we're extraordinarily grateful. And we also had other members give us donations towards some of the other items, and we greatly appreciate that. And the community, the outpouring from the community has just been phenomenal. And I want to recognize some of the people, and happily some of them were able to make it today, for their contributions in getting our clubhouse together. First of all, I would like to thank Ed and Mary in back there. Ed, he is the manager of the Home Depot in West Boca Raton, and he donated to us 10 gallons of paint to paint this clubhouse. Thank you, Ed. We greatly appreciate that. So make sure you go and see Ed. I would also like to thank, I don't know about that. I also, and I don't see him, George. There he is. George, move up a little bit. This is George Chacon. He is the manager of the West Boca Lowe's. And his store, significant discount towards our lighting and ceiling fans, and you can see what a difference it makes. So thank you, George, and go visit George over on at Lowe's. A couple of people actually couldn't make it today. If you look over to the wall over here, you see we have a new photograph. The original photograph taken in 1953 was a black and white version of that. And when we found it, we thought, gee, wouldn't that be neat to recreate that picture? So that's basically what we did. And a photographer called Ben Hicks from Boca Raton Photography and Design donated that to us, and it's magnificent. Ben has a good excuse for not being here today. He's on his honeymoon. So and I would also like to thank Jerry's Artorama. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it today either. In Deerfield Beach, they provided the framing and matting to us. And I would also like to thank Scott Gamore. Scott's here in the back. Scott, wave. Scott is the gentleman. You see us all running around in these shirts. Scott is the owner of All American Awards in Fort Lauderdale, and he's been doing all of our sort of merchandising. Look at this. Take a quick look at this down here. This is brand new. Is that beautiful? And Scott donated to us the plaque that goes on the picture. Thank you, Scott. And I also want to thank Talon Lyman. Talon, give everybody a wave. She is a local artist in Delray Beach, and she designed our 60th anniversary poster. And when you go back into the lobby, on the left-hand side, it is hanging there, and it's absolutely magnificent. You're so talented, and I thank you.
Sure, thank you.
And we had it professionally matted and framed. Another donation. I mean, we're over the moon. Everybody's been so wonderful. And this was by Gallery Framers in Boca Raton on Glades Road. Unfortunately, the owner couldn't make it today, but if you need framing done, please go see them. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Sid Gardino. Sid, see you back there? I love Sid. He has the best plants in the world. He has his own nursery, and he specializes in exotic tropicals, and he was kind enough to donate to us a tree for our 60th anniversary, which we just planted out front. And this is no ordinary tree. This tree is called Fairy's Petticoats, or Lily of the Valley tree, and it gets little white flowers with pink little, it's just, I can't even describe it. It's fantastic. So hopefully Sid will tell us about it during the garden tour. Sid, I thank you. Okay, and before we start the tour, I just want to take just a few minutes to tell you about the history of the Boca Raton Garden Club as well as National Garden Week. Mayor Welchel was kind enough to provide us with the proclamation for National Garden Week. And that actually, today's the last day. It's June 2nd through June 8th. And this was started by President Reagan in 1986. he gave this proclamation so that gardeners could be recognized for their contributions to the community. So every year we try and do something special for National Garden Week, and this year was no exception. We went out to the libraries, both the city and the county libraries, and we asked them if they would put displays up, and they were wonderful. They put books up on Florida gardening, they put videos up, they put our posters up, and in some cases, a couple of the libraries even put plants and flowers up. So it's a really great way to spread the word about gardening in Florida. In addition to that, we have an annual tradition where we go around town and we give out free plants to worthy organizations. And this year we made 20 stops. And we went to places like nursing homes and hospices and the libraries and the fire stations to thank them for their service and also to hopefully spread some of the joy of gardening. Now, I just want to touch very briefly on the history of this club. And I thought, now how can I describe this? Let's think back to 1953. Actually, I wasn't born in 1953. But I thought this is a good, what better way to present this than from the very words of the founder and the very first president of the Boca Raton Garden Club. So I looked through the scrapbooks, and this is what she said. Her name, by the way, was Mrs. Willard Mackley. They always went sort of like Mrs. the husband name. They didn't really use the first name, but her name was Florence. This is what Florence said. When I moved to Boca and learned from one or two women that they favored my suggestion of forming a garden club, I consulted with our then District 6 director and learned that 15 interested gardeners were needed to organize such a club. Being new in town, I didn't know that many women, so I called Myrtle Fleming to learn if she could find 15 interested women, and she assured me that she thought she could. The next day, she called and asked if we would be permitted to have more than 15, and I assured her the more the merrier. So we were amazed at the very first meeting when 34 women actually showed up. So upon my invitation on June 2nd, 1953, a group of 34 women met at our home and organized the Boca Raton Garden Club. The club soon became one of the fastest growing clubs in Florida, and at the end of the first year had grown to 119 members, which that's pretty astounding. So one of the club's first projects was really the beautification. And they wanted to beautify the town park, the Florida East Coast Railway Station on Palmetto Park, and most significantly, the approaches into Boca Raton on both sides of Federal Highway. So at their very first meeting, which I think this astounds me, they held a vote and they said, well, we're going to go to the city council and we're going to ask them for $2,000 to get plans to beautify this committee. And that's what they did. And subsequently they got the money and they started the ball rolling, and that's how the group started. And because they grew so rapidly, they actually couldn't meet in members' homes anymore. They met at the Lions Club in Boca Raton. So they really thought, well, we want to have our own clubhouse. They started doing fundraisers. They had plant sales and holiday house sales, which we continue today. And they eventually raised enough money to buy 3 lots right here where you're standing. And that was in 1964 for the princely sum of $6,000, which they ultimately paid 4 years later. They paid off the mortgage. And this, if you go to the back of the building, what they did was, this was an existing building that was part of the Army base during World War II. And it was used as a boiler room and a coal bin. So what they did was they gutted this back here. They put in the kitchen and the restrooms and the office and the horticulture room, which still exists today. But it still wasn't big enough to hold their meetings at, so they added in 1971 this room, this auditorium that we're standing in right now, and the stage, and then of course they started having their meetings here. So that brings us pretty much up to date to where we are today. If anybody is interested in joining us, we meet on the first Tuesday of the month from October through June at 1 p.m. We have a brief business meeting and we have a meeting with speakers. On the second Tuesday of the month, we have members-only floral design class where some of our wonderful teachers show us how to do designs. And if you look up here on the stage, you can just see these things are absolutely magnificent. On the third Wednesday of the month, we have a horticulture group, which is either a field trip or we have a speaker come in. And we do things like garden therapy. We work with Alzheimer's patients at the FAU Memory and Wellness Center. We do junior gardening. We work with kids at elementary school, trying to get them, interested in gardening at a relatively early age. We give out college scholarships. I'm thrilled to say that just this past week, we gave one to a member's daughter for $1,000 to go to Florida Atlantic University. And we give out camperships to Camp Wekiva, which is a camp north of here where we encourage kids to, get a love of nature at an early age. So we do a lot of things. We do a lot of things within the community also. We worked with the Children's Museum on a couple of events this year. We work at we have a booth at the tree lighting around the holiday time. We did a couple of events with Earth Day, so we really are pretty visible in the community. And I just want to say that I also just want to quickly mention, we also do a lot of fundraisers because we do own this building, and because of that, there are expenses associated with it. And this coming year, we're going to have a lot of fun things. We're going to have a fashion show and luncheon. We're going to have a Spanish night where we'll have tapas and hopefully flamenco dancers. We're going to have Mardi Gras with a jazz band. We're going to have Kentucky Derby Day. So we do a lot of fun things. And, if any of you are interested, we have 147 members. We always have room for a couple more, so just ask one of us in these shirts. And finally, I just want to say this. I think that the Boca Raton Garden Club has a very rich and storied history in this community, and Mayor Welchel, spoke to some of that. We're very proud of all the things that we've accomplished in 60 years. And I invite you to please come with us on the garden tour and have a look at our magnificent grounds, which are maintained by a wonderful group of women we call the Dirt Gardeners. And they work extremely hard on this. And please take a look around at the displays, and you can get an idea of what we've done today and what we've done over the past 60 years. And I just wanted to say this. The 60th anniversary is also known as the Diamond Anniversary. And the word diamond comes from the Greek adamus, which means unconquerable and enduring. And I think that really aptly describes the Boca Raton Garden Club. I think we're rare and precious as a diamond. So I thank you all very much for coming, and I look forward to 60 more years. And are we ready for the garden? It's about 2:25. Are we ready to go? Okay, if everybody, this is Carol Rice, and she's in charge of the landscaping. If you want to follow her outside, and we'll start the garden tour. Thank you.